What's the problem now?
It's a really telling detail, underscoring how society, or perhaps the official record, had erased the true nature of their bond. Even after dying heroically, even after the funeral, his spirit is in limbo.
Wandering between worlds, can't get into the afterlife.
Can't enter the Isles of the Blessed, the place reserved for heroes. Because while he died wearing Achilles' armor while he had his funeral, his name, his true identity, and his sacrifice
Wasn't officially recognized next to Achilles in the, heroic register.
Exactly. His name wasn't inscribed alongside the great heroes in the annals of glory. His immense sacrifice, which was driven entirely by love, remained tragically unvalidated by the official system, by the powers that be.
So the final validation, the thing that finally allows him peace, it has to come from somewhere else.
From someone unexpected and incredibly powerful, Achilles' own mother, the sea goddess Thetis.
And the sources mention she once hated Patroclus. Why?
Well, her feelings were complex. As a goddess, she knew the prophecy, she foresaw the tragic future. And Patroclus, being mortal and having this profoundly humanizing effect on Achilles.
He was the anchor tying Achilles to mortality.
Precisely. Tying him to the mortal world, and therefore tying him to his fated early death. Thetis likely resented this mortal bond that seemed to challenge or even overpower her son's divine mandate for pure Kleos.
But something changes her mind.
Time. And witnessing the aftermath. Years pass, apparently, and having seen her son's complete self-destructive devastation after Patroclus died, having seen the true cost of his fame.
Thetis finally understands. She achieves a kind of divine clarity about their connection.
It seems so. She finally recognizes that Patroclus wasn't a weakness for Achilles or a distraction from his destiny. He was his strength, his heart.
And with that understanding, that divine clarity, she acts.
She performs the final, ultimate act of acceptance. The one that validates their love for all eternity.
What does she do?
She carves Patroclus' name next to her son's. On the hero's ledger, the tombstone, the memorial, the specific place varies in telling, but the act is key.
That's the moment. Immortal acceptance meeting mortal sacrifice.
It's the divine resolution to what was, at its core, a human tragedy compounded by politics and pride. The goddess mother of the ultimate hero finally accepts the mortal love that defined her son's entire existence.
Ensuring that in history and legend, their names are forever linked.
And with that simple act, that inscription, the final obstacle is gone.
The ultimate reunion is finally possible.
Their souls, which were torn apart by human pride, by hubris, and by the demands of destiny, of Kleos, they're finally reunited in the afterlife.
Their bond, which started in secret, was forged in that peaceful time with Chiron, endured the horrors of war, and was finally validated by a goddess's change of heart.
It endures forever, in life, in death, and in legend, cementing the idea that maybe love and the sacrifice it demanded was the real defining force of Achilles' life, even more than the glory of battle. #outro.
Wow. Okay, so this deep dive, it really gives us a much clearer picture of just how complex this foundational myth is.
Yeah, it's not simple at all.
We've looked at that foundational bond, whether you call it philia or eros or both. We've seen the crushing weight of Kleos, that need for eternal glory.
And the incredibly destructive power of hubris, that pride, especially Achilles' pride after Agamemnon's insult, which kicked off the final tragedy.
The whole story of Achilles and Patroclus, it feels like a stunning, almost brutal examination of the price you pay for legacy, for fame.
Absolutely. And the way the narrative is structured, it ensures that Patroclus, the quiet one, the gentle one, he becomes the ultimate moral catalyst for everything.
As Achilles' shadow, like you said earlier, he ironically ends up being the central motivation behind the greatest warrior's most famous, most destructive, and most celebrated acts.
His death was the engine. It drove the whole final phase of the Trojan War. And it was the absolute core of Achilles' psychological destruction and eventual death.
It really is the essential story of how an outcast prince, exiled for basically tripping,
becomes the very heart of maybe the greatest legend of the entire heroic age.
And it leaves us with that incredibly powerful image at the end, the divine intervention, the validation from Thetis.
Right. We talked about how Patroclus needed his name carved next to Achilles by the goddess to find peace, to get into the afterlife.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, the listener. Something to mull over, maybe, where it really gets to the core theme, I think.
If Thetis hadn't intervened, if she hadn't had that change of heart and performed that final, compassionate act of acceptance, if Patroclus' name hadn't been carved there,
would Achilles' glorious prophesied Kleos, all that eternal fame he achieved, would it ultimately have made Patroclus' sacrifice, his love, meaningless?
Think about that tension, eternal glory versus unconditional love. What truly lasts, what truly matters.